Have you ever noticed that whatever gets your attention gets you? With so many distractions and noise in modern life, how do you stop the busyness in your head to focus on God's plan and the priorities in your life? I get it. This can be hard. My tendency in life is just to live in my head. It's taken a lot of training and practice being able to create extended periods of quiet just so I can have that calm and focus. Even now, I can still get caught up in a whirlwind of thoughts and feelings that need to get calmed when certain situations occur in my life. Or I sometimes still get that weird restlessness, that sensation that I need to be doing something, anything other than resting. I've learned that to acknowledge these thoughts, feelings, and sensations, not stuff them, not power through them, not beat myself up to overcome them and keep going through all the years that I focused on stress recovery. So today, in this chapter of the Daniel plan, it's all about focus. And hopefully the little ones don't keep barking. This is all about focus. It's to win the war between the thoughtful part of your brain that knows what you should do and your pleasure centers that always want gratification now. The one that I used to struggle with a lot was the automatic negative thought patterns that stressed and overwhelmed me. I'm going to talk more about those next time. The premise of the book for this chapter is that healthier brains make better decisions, which leads to healthier outcomes and a more enjoyable long-term life. Without focus, pleasure cravings can win, or you can get stuck in the same rut of conditioned and habitual thoughts and behaviors. So today we're going to get into what makes a healthy brain, make you hopefully decide that you want a healthy brain. And I'm going to keep it pretty simple. I'm going to try and stay away from too much technical medical jargon is to keep this accessible. So hello, I'm Sharon McCall. In case if we haven't met before, I am doing this book discussion is kind of a fun project and to practice my video skills and just keep learning and adding on new things each week. In my profession, I'm a stress recovery coach. And so I'm fascinated by how the brain works. I just continue to learn more with every book that I read or class that I take and just develop a much greater knowledge on what it takes to heal the brain and to heal your stress. The brain is so fascinating if you really haven't sat down to think about it. Only 2% of our body weight, yet it uses 20 to 30% of the calories you consume just to keep it powered. And 20% of the oxygen and the blood flow in the body is needed to keep your brain going and healthy. There are 100 billion nerve cells and more connections than stars in the sky in your brain. It is absolutely amazing. So if you envision your brain like a computer, the hardware is like your physical brain and the software is the thoughts and the feelings. And so as you think about what your brain's capable of doing, like such speed and complexity, it's absolutely wild. God designed us so miraculously, and there's still so much that we don't understand. It's not like even though we've had our brains for instance forever, the scientists and everybody that studies it don't know it all. So this is part of that magic and miracle of what God's designed for us. So getting into the topic for today, to get happier and healthier for the long run, you want to prioritize brain health. Not just the direct effects, but every single decision that you make, it can lead to better outcomes in your life. You make poor decisions, you're going to get poor outcomes. You make better decisions, you're going to get better outcomes. The whole idea that we've been talking about of 1% better every day, that's what creates a health style as opposed to a lifestyle. So getting into the core content for this chapter, boosting brain health, according to Dr. Hyman, he's the co-author for this particular chapter, has 3 core strategies. Brain envy, that's the first one, and that's about caring passionately about your brain. 2, avoiding anything that hurts it. And 3, engaging in habits that boost its health. So, when was the last time that you truly thought about your brain and its health? Hmm? I'd love to see it in the comments. Just go ahead and drop it in. I am really only monitoring it in Facebook, but I do have comments on other platforms. If I don't quite get to you, I will make sure that I can follow up at the end of the stream to make sure I answer anything that pops up. So, as you think about your brain and the health, when was the last time that you thought about it? So, and then how does that compare to the frequency that you think of other aspects of your physical health, like appearance, weight, heart health, immune health, uh, any aspect of your physical health? It's almost like, because the brain's out of sight, it's out of mind. When you look in the mirror after a shower, you're not looking at your brain. You're looking at your physical form, how your skin's doing, how your weight's doing, how you look, and your body image. When you're huffing and puffing as you're playing with the dogs or the kids, you're not really thinking about what that's going on in your brain for. You're just like, oof, I need to go work on strengthening up my endurance and my stamina. Or when your muscles are yelling at you at the end of a workout, you're like, ooh, I got to go work on that a little bit more. So what we want you to do is start focusing on the things that get you to identify how well is your brain working, so that you can end up getting really passionate about your brain's function. This is what Dr. Amen calls brain envy. So here are 7 warning signs to help you cultivate a desire to start taking care of your brain. So the first of these is poor memory. How's your memory compared to 10 years ago? If it's not the same, then there's some things that you can do. It's not just a factor of aging. There are people that are old with really sharp memories. So there are lifestyle factors you can do to being able to help continue to keep up a strong memory. Poor judgment and impulsiveness, short attention span, distractibility, depression or generalized anxiety. And I'm not talking about like the clinical definition of these, but just generally persistent feelings of sadness or worry, things that kind of are impacting your daily life, but not like where you're going out to get professional help. There is so much, particularly in low levels of this, where changes in lifestyle are more or equally as effective to some of the prescription medicines. So I'm always a proponent on, you want to start with the lifestyle changes, and then that's not enough, then seek the professional help that you need to. Obesity and overweight. You may not realize it, but as your weight goes up, your brain shrinks. This is where some of the technical stuff that they went into in the book, I'm not going into, but it's pretty fascinating about how that correlation. Low energy, because if you're prioritizing your brain and you're tired, it means that your brain's been taking most of the energy that you're consuming, and you need to make sure that you're getting enough rest, you're getting enough calories, you're feeding it the right things so that your brain can end up working efficiently as well as your body. Then insomnia and poor sleep quality. If this is an ongoing, every now and then everybody's going to end up having a poor night's sleep, but this is ongoing piece. And then particularly if you have sleep apnea, where it's snoring loudly, stopping breathing at night, feeling chronically tired. Again, if the lifestyle changes aren't helping you to do this, you're going to want to find a professional on that. So that's how to develop brain envy. So these are just 7 warning signs to keep an eye on to see, is your brain staying as healthy as it was? And just compare like to 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Are you going in the right direction? Is it still pretty stable, or are you seeing drastic changes in any of these attributes? So moving into the second pillar that Dr. Amen had, which is avoid anything that hurts the brain. So there's the obvious stuff. You want to stay away from illegal drugs, too much alcohol, environmental toxins. So let's get into some of the things that you may not have thought of when you think about hurting the brain. Have you sat down and thought about what happens every time your soft, mushy brain, it's very soft tissue, and it gets slammed into the bony ridges on the inside of your skull? So this is like when you're playing football, soccer, you're bouncing the ball on the top of your head, gymnastics or wrestling, car accidents, falls, anytime that your brain it basically hits the wall of your skull. It's like a car hitting the wall in an accident. That's what happens. And so every time you have one of these incidents, your brain has some damages done to it. So it may be like, think of it as like a black and blue for something really minor to something that could be more traumatic, and where it seriously impacts your abilities. So depending on that, your health and the level of injury that you have from this incident depends on how it's going to end up recovering. And the more that you have healthy lifestyle factors to help support that healing, the more likely and easier you're going to end up overcoming it. Just like as you think about, like, you bump yourself and you get a black and blue mark. If you take care of it, it heals up really easy. If you're in a healthy place, it doesn't take very long. But if you're not getting a variety of foods and getting enough rest, it may take a little bit longer. So that's what we mean by those. Then coming back to one of the ones that we talked about before in the food section, the white menaces. So there's the white menaces of sugar, flour, simple carbs, starches. These all can contribute to poor brain health. So some people kind of view Alzheimer's as like diabetes 3. So that just because of how much these impact the diet. So it's just like when people are concerned about if they're starting to get signs of diabetes, their blood sugar is not processing really well, if over an extended enough time frame, that can end up leading into, or another way for it to end up showing up is through Alzheimer's. Then the other thing, and this one was new for me as I was reading through this, I hadn't come across it. So like I said, always learning something new. Did you realize that even normal high blood pressure or high fasting blood sugar can end up leading to brain atrophy? This was one of the things that was new for me. And so this can get even worse if there's any lifestyle or disease factors that elevate blood pressure or blood sugar. So there's some pretty significant studies that he references in here that you're at 9% less brain volume when you have high blood pressure. That to me is kind of scary. As somebody that's done so much work to being able to get off of the blood pressure medicines, and I just have a naturally high blood pressure so that I don't have to take the meds, I still do a lot of meditation and I can manage it and to keep it kind of in that high normal range. But this gives me some additional motivation that I need to go and start working on the fitness to get better oxygenation and to get better energy going up to my brain and do more to bring that blood pressure down. See if there's anything else I can do naturally without any medications. Then, so did you have any comments or questions, any ahas on that second core concept that Dr. Amen has towards brain health? Okay, I don't see anything, so I'm going to go ahead and move on. So then, engaging in regular brain healthy habits. These are simple things to do, and we're going to keep talking about these a little bit more in the next couple weeks as we go through the entirety of the focus chapter. So some of these we've already talked about in a little bit more depth, and we'll continue to get into these a little bit more. So sleep. You want to get at least 7 hours of sleep each night. It's so important at night to get that rest, that REM sleep. It helps your brain integrate and put everything where it needs to do. It's like a magnificent filing system. And the only way it gets a chance to kind of put everything where it belongs and so it can make sense is while you are sleeping. So if you're not getting good quality sleep, you're not getting enough sleep, it really ends up impacting your brain health. So you want to make sure you're getting at least 7 hours of sleep. We've talked about exercise, we've talked about food and eating right. One thing we haven't really talked about is supplements specifically for brain health. So you really want to focus on omega-3 fatty acids, B vitamins. Personally, to being able to source these, I usually will go for food type items like a flaxseed oil and have that with some apple cider vinegar, or is over a dressing over a salad, fatty fish, lentils, chickpeas, leafy greens. If you're not getting enough of those, you can always end up going to whole food supplements like freeze dried beef organs. There's tons of freeze dried green powders that are out there. The fish roe, that's a great one for omega fatty acids. Um, there, if you want something more processed, of course, there's always the fish oils and things like that. So as needed, supplement, but those are simple, really simple ones. And personally, I'm a huge fan on these B ones because they're water soluble. So there's no way you can kind of overdo it. Your body's just gonna pee out anything that you're not using. So you can kind of tell whether you're effectively using it, you need to adjust your dosage or not. Moving into the next item that he has on his list of things to do is learning not to believe every thought. And we're going to get into that more in depth next week. And then one that he doesn't have on his list, but I think that really ties into all the concepts that are in this book and what I found from my personal work with stress and how it helps with overcoming stress, depression, general anxiety, is maintaining an attitude of gratitude. Positive, realistic, yet hopeful thinking can really end up helping you to stay in a space where you're not believing every thought and you're able to end up taking these thoughts and convert them into something that's helpful for you. So we'll talk more about that next week as well. But to me, this is truly where faith can come in, and it really grounds you and keeps you focused on how to keep your brain healthier from that view. So that was the third pillar then that Dr. Amen had in the book in regards to brain health. What ahas and things did you have that popped up as you were looking at hearing about what these ideas were for simple brain health improvements? Okay, moving into the last topic for today, the brain and stress. Stress has such a big impact in regards to your brain health. A little bit of stress is good. It helps you to grow and overcome, in a real serious situation. This is like your survival instinct kicking in with the fight or flight, freeze, fawn. But the challenge is, and so while stress in small doses can really benefit you, it's when it gets chronic. And that's what we find in a lot of modern society, is that people get stuck in this disconnection and just things and situations and the strain that's placed on the body and the mental systems and spiritually. It's really hard to stay out of chronic stress. And there are a lot of negative effects that occur when you're chronically stressed, physically, mentally, and spiritually, and they all impact your overall well-being. I'm not going to get too much into that. I can talk on that for hours. It's one of my big topics, obviously, as a stress recovery coach. But the thing about stress is that when you get stressed, the brain prioritizes certain systems. So think about it as when you're kicked in with fight or flight in a true survival situation. You need to be able to survive. So when you get stressed, your body is prioritizing everything to being able to survive that situation. Your brain doesn't know whether it's a thought or whether it's a real tiger that's after you. And so as your body's going through and deprioritizing things like rest and digestion, reproductive, a lot of different things, it can end up taking its toll. So you're constantly working where certain systems are getting prioritized over others, certain areas of your brain are getting prioritized over others for blood flow and oxygen. It can end up having some serious effect at ravaging and weakening systems. And this is where all the chronic disease stuff comes from. And, we can't avoid tough and difficult things from happening in our life. So it's all about being able to have the resilience and the coping skills just to navigate through, to being able to keep that inner calm no matter what's going on around you. So as we hear in 1 Peter, give all your cares and worries to God, for he cares about you. There's a lot more to it than that as you're looking at practical strategies. But if you just take the simple approach and just hold that to your heart and just keep coming back to God anytime you're feeling yourself up in stress, it can make a really big difference. Have those regular moments of check in with God and connection, and it can help you navigate through a heck of a lot and build that resilience that you need to work through stressful situations. So there's a number of super simple suggestions that the book makes being able to help you to reduce stress. I'll touch on a couple more, and if you want anything, like I said, this is like my specialty, and it's not just about stress relief. You want to figure out how can you change how you approach or how you think about situations and navigate them to being able to reduce the stress. It's not just about once you're stressed, how to reduce your stress. And these tactics are dominantly what I consider is just reactive stress reducing tactics. So the first one is the one that I mentioned, prayer. Just pray on a regular basis throughout the day. Stay connected with God throughout the day. Any spiritual discipline will help you to reduce your stress. So for any of the folks that are like okay with mindfulness or even pursuing more of an Eastern mindfulness style, that's why that particular technique is so beneficial, and there's a ton of research on it. But there's just as much on the benefits of Christian prayer and meditation and how that can reduce your stress. Learning to delegate is another easy, simple suggestion on how to reduce stress. Listening to soothing music, smelling calming scents, taking calming supplements or herbal teas, laughing. A couple of the things that aren't in the book that are some really common, simple things I work with people on, just some of my favorites. Just take a break. Just sit there and like take a break, create the space in a moment for you to do nothing, just to disconnect, do something different, something that you love, something creative, something that makes you feel joy. Just for a moment or two can make a huge difference. Humming, it helps calm down the nervous system, the way that it's vibrating. I think of humming like a cat purring and how it soothes itself. It has a very similar effect in humans. Just moving and stretching and getting the blood flowing are great to help to reduce stress. Deep breathing. Speaking of the cat purring, just sitting there and petting your cat or your dog, it's very soothing. There's other simple self-soothing techniques, just like we've all found, like your cat or dog's got a favorite spot to scratch, kind of usually up by the ears. Humans have a spot where our nerves are up towards the top, and being able to relax, if you're just doing some gentle movement of your finger against the back of your ear, it can end up helping to just to kind of help you calm your nervous system down. Just some simple hacks and techniques that you can use to reduce your stress. Like I said, if you've got stress and you want stress relieving exercises, I've got a whole book of them that's in a devotional out on Amazon. If you want the link, I'll shoot that over to you. Just let me know in the comments. I do a lot of this. So anything that's stressing you out, let me know and I can help shoot you a resource. So the book kind of points out, so when you stop taking yourself so seriously and become more God-centered instead of me-centered, stress naturally reduces. And that's the approach that it takes as we go through the rest of the content in regards to focus in the Daniel plan. So any ahas for today? Anything that you want to try out of those stress relieving tactics that I just went through? Like I said, if I catch it, if you don't comment, I don't get back to you now, I can, or you catch this on the replay, I'll keep an eye out for comments and to make sure I can support you in this. So just getting into the closing then for today, I am praying for you to have God's strength and guidance, to be healthy in body, renewed in mind, and strong in spirit. So closing in prayer. God, please help us conform to your will and not the pattern of the world, so that we can be transformed. Help us stay in connection with you and keep our thoughts fixed on you throughout our busy day. Help us see your supportive and encouraging hand as we take the next small right step to improve our health style. In Jesus' name, amen. So if your stronghold is stress and you want to learn anything more about the stress, please reach out. Links are in the descriptions and in my profile to learn more. If this really resonates with you about this faith forward, holistic perspective, I can end up sharing with some great information with you to help you overcome stress and to boost energy. So next time we're going to end up talking about renewing your mind, which is all about changing your thought patterns. And then the week after, we're going to wrap up the chapter with attitude and purpose. Until next time, have a blessed day.